Hello everyone. Today we will be learning about how to use the timing and tracing tools in the TIMS MVP software to evaluate swallowing safety and efficiency according to the ASPEKT-C method. Please note, this video was developed using TIMS MVP review software version 5.1. If you are using a different version, the functionality may be different. If you don't have the TIMS MVP software, instructions on how to complete these measures using image J can be found separately. The ASPEKT-C method was created to assist clinicians in identifying the underlying mechanisms leading to impaired swallowing safety and efficiency on video fluoroscopic swallow studies. It includes 8 of the key parameters from the full ASPEKT method, which were chosen based on data suggesting that they are the parameters that most commonly explain penetration aspiration and post-swallow residue in people with dysphagia. These parameters are found in the top row of the ASPEKT-C worksheet and can be compared to reference values in healthy individuals using the scoring sheet. Both the worksheet and the scoring sheet are available on our website. This video is not a replacement for ASPEKT-C training. If you are interested in ASPEKT-C training, please go to the Swallowing Rehabilitation Research Lab website for details. The purpose of this video is to demonstrate how to complete quantitative measurement for 3 out of the 8 ASPEKT-C parameters using the TIMS MVP tools, those 3 parameters being columns 2D, time to LVC, 3B, total pharyngeal residue, and 3C, pharyngeal area at maximum pharyngeal constriction, or PhAMPC. For more information on any of the 8 parameters, please refer to the ASPEKT-C instruction manual, which is also available on our website. Let's get started. Let's open up TIMS MVP and open our video fluoroscopy from the study dashboard. Click on the Series tab, then select the video clip or bolus trial for evaluation from the thumbnails on the left. Here, on the bottom left, we can see that our video has 30 frames per second, and the current frame number can be found to the right of the green timeline. The timing mode feature, represented by the stopwatch symbol, will be used for timing measurement, and the annotation icon will reveal the tools for measuring area. The first parameter we will demonstrate is how to calculate the timing of laryngeal vestibule closure. This parameter evaluates how quickly the airway protection mechanism responds to the incoming bolus and is sometimes referred to as laryngeal vestibule closure reaction time in the literature. In the ASPEKT-C method, this is referred to as time to LVC and represents the time elapsed between the hyoid burst frame and the LVC frame. In brief, the hyoid burst event has been used across many studies to mark the onset of the pharyngeal phase of the swallow and is a critical event for determining whether or not there is a delay in pharyngeal phase onset. We define hyoid burst frame as the first frame demonstrating a jump or burst in the position of the hyoid that is most associated with the initial bolus swallow. At the other end, laryngeal vestibule closure is one of the most critical parameters associated with airway protection. It is characterized by the level of tissue contact between the arytenoids and the laryngeal surface of the epiglottis, that is, complete closure, partial closure, or incomplete closure. We define LVC frame as the first frame during the initial bolus swallow that demonstrates most complete laryngeal vestibule closure anterior to the arytenoids. For more information on hyoid burst and LVC frame selection, please refer to the instruction manual on our website. Of note, based on the flow of the ASPEKT-C worksheet, time to LVC will only be completed if there was a penetration aspiration event before laryngeal vestibule closure for that bolus trial. So, in TIMS MVP, use the arrow keys on your keyboard or scroll with your mouse to move frame by frame through the video until you reach the hyoid burst frame for the initial bolus swallow. On this frame, click on the timing mode icon to convert the frame number into a stopwatch function, which can automatically calculate the time difference between 2 frames of interest, that is, the number of seconds and milliseconds elapsed between these frames. Note that our hyoid burst frame is now set at time point 0, or 0 seconds and 0 milliseconds. Then, continue scrolling forward frame by frame to find the first frame of most complete laryngeal vestibule closure, or LVC frame. Remember, Since our video has 30 frames per second, the time difference between each frame is 33 milliseconds. Once you have reached the LVC frame, simply multiply the time measure by 1000, or move the decimal 3 digits to the right, and record this number under column 2B in your worksheet. Since the time difference was automatically calculated, there is no need to document the difference in frame numbers. Once the entire study has been analyzed, identify and compare the worst value for each consistency under column 2D from your worksheet to that in the typical reference values table in the scoring sheet to determine if LVC timing was typical or atypical for that consistency. The next parameter we will demonstrate is how to measure total pharyngeal residue. The presence and severity of post-swallow residue is commonly used in both research and clinical practice to evaluate swallowing efficiency, that is, the ability to clear material through the pharynx. In the ASPEKT-C method, total pharyngeal residue refers to any barium or bolus material remaining in the pharynx after the initial bolus swallow. The boundaries of the pharynx are defined to include all space that is below the top of C2, anterior to the posterior pharyngeal wall, above the UES, and posterior to the arytenoids, pharyngeal surface of the epiglottis, and base of tongue. For the superior boundary, it may be helpful to visualize a line that cuts across the pharynx at the level of the top of C2. Note that this parameter does not include any residue that may be in the oral cavity, nasopharynx, or airway. Of note, based on the flow of the ASPEKT-C worksheet, total pharyngeal residue will only be measured if there is visible pharyngeal residue at the end of the initial bolus swallow for that trial. If there is no visible residue, there is no need to trace, and this column may be left blank. To measure post-swallow residue, first, move frame by frame through the video and identify the first frame showing the piriform sinuses at their lowest position relative to the spine at the end of the initial bolus swallow. This frame should show the pharynx in a rested or relaxed state and should occur before the end of the clip, before any new bolus material spills into the pharynx, and before any hyolaryngeal excursion for a subsequent swallow. Avoid frames that are blurred due to patient movement, or frames with poor visualization of the pharyngeal residue. For more information on frame selection for residue tracing, please refer to the instruction manual on our website. On your chosen frame, the next step is to set the cervical spine scaler. Previous literature has shown that scaling measurements to the length of the C2 to C4 cervical spine allows for anatomically normalized measures that control for differences in pharyngeal size, such as due to sex and height. To do this, locate the Advanced Controls toolbar on the right side of the video and click on the annotation icon. Click on the solid colored square and select the thinly weighted line to allow for a more precise tracing. Then, click on the pointer icon and select the line tool. Locate the most anterior-inferior corners of C2 and C4, then click and drag to draw a line connecting these 2 points. Click on the ruler icon in the top right corner to display the values associated with your measurements, then override the value for your C-spine line to 10. We are setting this to 10 to create a 10 by 10 box that represents the C2 to C4 squared space. Any subsequent area measurements will be automatically calculated as a percent of the C2 to C4 squared space, that is, a percentage of 100. Now that we have our anatomical scaler, click on the line tool again to select another tool to measure the area. The options here include the magic wand and the magic brush tools. However, for this demonstration, we will be using the freehand tool represented by the pen icon. Before starting, you may wish to enlarge your frame by clicking the zoom in icon, then repositioning the frame using the scroll bars on the right and the bottom. To later shrink the frame back to its original size, click the zoom out icon. With the freehand tool selected, click and drag to trace a contour around all of the visible residue within our pharyngeal boundaries. Be sure to connect the ends of your tracing to obtain a true area measurement of the entire enclosed space. If the lines do not close, this could result in a length rather than an area measurement, inflating your numbers. Once you release your mouse, the area measurement will be automatically added to your list of values in the top right corner. If there are multiple discrete areas of residue, repeat this process until all of the pharyngeal residue has been captured. If you make a mistake while tracing, click Undo to delete your most recent tracing and associated measurement. Alternatively, you can find the Eraser tool under the Annotation options and then click to remove a specific tracing. If you wish to start over, click on Clear All Annotations, represented by the trash can icon, to delete all of your tracings and measurements, including your scalar line. If you clear the screen by accident, you can recover your tracings by clicking Undo, which also acts as a function to undo all of your previous actions in sequential order. Once tracing is complete, add up all of the area values and document the total under column 3B in your worksheet. Remember, since our scalar line was set to 10, all of the area values were automatically calculated as an anatomically normalized measure. That is, the total area value already represents a percentage of the C2 to C4 squared space. The calculation is done for you. Once the entire study has been analyzed, identify and compare the worst value for each consistency under column 3B from your worksheet to that in the typical reference values table in the scoring sheet to determine if the amount of pharyngeal residue was typical or atypical for that consistency. The final parameter we will demonstrate is how to measure pharyngeal area and maximum pharyngeal constriction, or PhAMPC. In the ASPEKT-C method, this parameter is thought to be a possible underlying mechanism in impaired swallowing efficiency that may result in atypical amounts of pharyngeal residue. Of note, based on the flow of the ASPEKT-C worksheet, PhAMPC will only be measured if there was an atypical amount of total pharyngeal residue identified for that bolus trial. If there was no pharyngeal residue or typical residue was measured on that trial, there is no need to measure PhAMPC, and this column may be left blank. To measure PhAMPC, first move frame by frame through the initial bolus swallow and identify the first frame demonstrating maximum squeeze of the pharynx, that is, where we have the smallest amount of unobliterated space in the pharynx. Unobliterated space, if present, may be filled with either barium or air. Note that the selected frame must be chosen before the upper pharynx begins to relax, before the tracheal air column begins to descend, before the laryngeal vestibule begins to open, and before any nasopharyngeal relaxation can be observed. For more information on frame selection for maximum pharyngeal constriction, please refer to the instruction manual on our website. On your chosen frame, using the same steps as for residue tracing, we will again draw the C2 to C4 scalar line and override the value to 10. You may also wish to zoom in on your frame before starting to trace. Then, using the freehand tool, click and drag to trace all of the visible barium and/or airspace within the pharyngeal boundaries as described earlier. Note how the inclusion of airspace in this tracing is different from 3B, total pharyngeal residue, where we only trace bolus material. Remember to end your tracing where you start to accurately capture the area of the enclosed space. Be careful to avoid tracing any tissue, such as the epiglottis, or into the laryngeal vestibule. You may need to take multiple area measurements to capture all of the discrete areas of barium or airspace. If you make a mistake while tracing, click on Undo to remove your last tracing. Use the Eraser tool to click on and remove a specific tracing, or click on Clear All Annotations to clear the screen and start over. Once tracing is complete, add up all of the area values and document the total under column 3C in your worksheet. As before, since our scalar line was set to 10, there is no need to document individual variables in the equation, as the normalized area has already been calculated for you. Once the entire study has been analyzed, identify and compare the worst value for each consistency under column 3C from your worksheet to that in the typical reference values table in the scoring sheet to determine if PhAMPC was typical or atypical for that consistency. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions, please feel free to connect with us through any of the platforms shown here. Please also like and subscribe to our channel for more videos on pixel-based tracing using the ASPEKT and ASPEKT-C method. See you next time.